Everyone, it's Desiree. I am back again, sounding like Leah more and more. Here is part 2 from the Simon Says Hooray limited edition kit from their month of STAMPtember. So card 6, the wonky die is making an appearance again. So I've cut my panels. I used 2 of the cardstock from the pack. So one is solid. And then I cut another one with the rectangle off to the side. Now I don't have the stitching around it, which is okay. I just wanted the opening. I'm going to use my Tombow Mono Multi Glue. I'm liking it. I'm just not liking the applicator, but it is a really good glue. Using my acetate, yep, you guessed it, we're making a shaker card. And I've adhered that, and now I'm going to put my foam tape around that to build that up so that we can fill it up with all of the awesome sequins. So I picked out some colors, shades of blue, shades of pink, and shades of green, and I'll have them linked below for the ones that I've purchased. Nope, they're not from Michael's. So I'm putting some shades of the blue. We're going to fill it in with some of the green just to give it some bright colors, and then we're going to close out with some of the pink just to give it some pop against that background, because you can see I used the green background and it says happy birthday throughout it. I'm using my anti-static tool on that so that they don't stick to that panel. I don't like to put it, I know some you put it around the glue, the adhesion, and the acetate sheet. I don't like that. It clouds up the sheet. At least that's for me, and I'm strange. So I pulled off all the backing from the foam tape, and now I've applied my panel, making sure it was written the right way so I didn't put it in upside down. Yep, came close. And now I'm violently shaking it to make sure everything's moving. I grabbed a couple of the die cuts from the kit that was provided, and I'm going to adhere the one that says let them eat cake, because who doesn't like cake? Lord knows I do. And I'm just going to adhere that off to the side so that it partially covers the rectangle just to give it a different type of shape. And then I'm using the die cut that says Happy Day. I'm going to pop that up with some foam squares. And I'm going to place that down along the bottom, just below the piece of cake. And then I also grabbed one of the banners. This was from one of the pages within the cardstock. So I just cut it out and put a fishtail on it, and I'm going to pop that up on some foam squares as well. Excuse me, I'm going to be drinking a lot of tea during this video here. Allergies, cold, yep, it's all hit. It's an awesome time of the year. So now I'm going to pop that up on my 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 top folding card base. It's what I always use. It's always how I cut them. And I'm using the pink that came in the kit. One of the many colors. They were just awesome colors. Very bright. And next I'm going to grab my Spectrum Noir glitter pen. And I'm just going to go over the Happy Day, just to give it a little bit of shimmer. And I'm going to pull out my Ranger, trying to combine too many words here, Ranger and enamel accents. Yeah, I'll get it out. So sorry. And I'm using the blue ribbon, and I'm using the electric lime, and then finally the lemon twist at the top. And then for the cherry, I'm using classic cherry. And then I'm just using a pin just to drag it out so that it can fill the top, the stem of the cherry. And that's card 6, cute little shaker. For card number 7, kind of went really out there with this one. But you all know that if it's not the wonky die that we see, I definitely like to make my own pattern paper with the stamps. I think it lets your stamps go farther, and they can be used for so many things. So I'm using the diamond, the sparkle diamond in this. Of course, I forgot to use my anti-static tool in the first round of the stamping for the positioning, so we got the brush out. And then you can see I filled in the rest. I'm using my Recollections Gold Fine embossing powder. So now I pull out my anti-static because now I'm going to use the silver, and I pulled out the embossing pen. And I'm filling in the areas on this diamond. And I'm going to fill that in with silver from Recollections. And it is a fine detail powder. It works really well. And I just wanted to do the one just to see if, my idea was going to work. And I was very pleased. I didn't want it to be perfect, but I think that looks really cool. It's almost like it's metal going on in there. This time I'm using the Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle dies, and it is slightly smaller than 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I've cut that out. The measurement is actually 3 1/4 by 5 inches, if you just wanted to cut that out. And I'm using the sentiment, wishing you a happily ever after. I think that is so cute. So I used my VersaFine Black Onyx ink to stamp it, and then I covered it with my clear embossing powder, and we're going to heat set that. Now this paper is the Nina Solar White 80 pound, and I pulled out you're going to hear some noise here as I pull it out, my Gonzai Tombe Starry Colors. These are all gold shades, and I'm using the light gold. So I put some water in the palette, let it sit there a little bit, and I'm just filling in the happily ever after. It's okay, you don't need watercolor paper for that because you're not overworking it, so it won't pill. I grabbed 2 of my favorite things stitched squares, and I cut one from a gold paper from my stash, and then I used a smaller one around the sentiment. So it just kind of accents, gives it a little bit of a frame border on it. I adhered that directly down onto the gold metallic, and now I'm going to take this sentiment and use my foam tape from Big Lots, which I can't get anymore, very upsetting. And I'm going to pop that up down onto the corner of this card panel. Again, 4 1/4, 5 1/2 top folding. I'm going to adhere this panel down onto that. And then I'm going to grab my Nuvo drops. This is actually Gray Mist, believe it or not. I bought it and I wasn't quite sure if I would ever use it, and I thought it went really well. I thought it accented the silver that I used in the center of the diamonds. And that is card 7. So for card number 8, yep, Wonky makes an appearance again. We're going to use the Derwent Inktense color pencils. I love these watercolor pencils. They are my go-to. But I took the die on a Canson watercolor and I traced around it. I just wanted to know what the border was approximately for that. And I'm going to use the balloon die. And then I have a smaller balloon die from my stash from a STAMPtember set, I believe, that I'm going to use up in the corner there as well. I'm also using the sentiment Dream Come True, and I'm putting This Is A on top of it. So I don't have the Misty, but I have the Stamp Perfect from Hamilton Art, and I really like it. I try not to use it too much because you get that glare. So, yep, that's the bar of my camera going on there. Say hello. So, in that piece that I was using, that grid, it's actually from my sewing side. It's just a clear piece of template, and I was able to use that. So, I didn't get a mark on that panel when I stamped the second one, so I could get that positioned. And then I also stamped some clouds. And the first color that I'm using is Iris Blue, and I'm just putting it down on the corners or in the shaded areas of the cloud. And then for my main panel, I'm actually using colors of the rainbow. So again, the Iris Blue, the green is Field Green, and then the yellow is Sun Yellow. And you can see I'm just putting it on the corner. The orange is Tangerine, which I'm using, and the red was Poppy Red that I used on the left-hand side of the large balloon. I'm using a saddle brown for the basket at the bottom. I'm using that Sun Yellow again for the pieces that come down. And then I'm now using my aqua brush and I'm pulling that color out. So you can see how little I put down on the watercolor paper, and you can see how vibrant it is. You do not need much. These are, I think they're at a really good price. They come in different sets. Of course, I have both the 36 and the 72 because I was greedy. But they are well worth it because they will last a really long time. So I wanted to zoom in because I found the zoom button. And this way you could see just how vibrant these colors really come up. I mean, look at that yellow. Again, so little put down and it just really pulls out. So you can see I'm using my aqua brush, going along where the color is, getting it activated, cleaning off my brush, and then coming down into it. So it gives me that shading automatically when it comes to the coloring. Again, I'm not a watercolorist, so this is very general. The purple that I used is violet. So I put that towards the top, and you can see I'm just able to pull that down along the area where I have it set at the top of the balloon. So I just wanted to zoom in. I'm not showing all of the coloring just for time's sake. I did originally, when I edit this, have it all in there, and yeah, you all would have given me thumbs down with the length of the video. So now I'm just adding the purple into the flags going across. And for the sentiment itself, I'm actually using iron blue. It's a very deep gray blue. So doing the same thing as you've seen me do before, I'm putting it down on the base of the letters and pulling it up. So there's some shading. Because these are up in the sky, so I didn't want it too bold to stand out. I'm going to cut out some of my clouds. There's that wonky die. I love that wonky die. So I've cut out my panel. And just when you think it's going to be a one layer, no, we're going to have dimension, always have dimension. I grabbed one of my Stampin' Up! Inks called Soft Sky, and I'm using my Nuvo brush blender. These are great. And I'm just putting a hint of color in the background on this panel. Not worried if I go too much over the balloons. I'm kind of staying away from them. So, but it just adds a little bit of a blue tint. I'm popping, here's my dimension. I'm popping up my clouds onto the card base, or the card panel, I should say. And I'm just going to position, I'm going to use 3. You know, I always work in groups of 3 going on. But I think it's got some really great colors. It's really bright and cheerful. I placed that on my 4 1/4, 5 1/2 top folding, and I used the yellow, the bright yellow from the kit. Yes, Mahumba bottle of art glitter glue, because my small one exploded everywhere. It was nasty. But I have gotten more. So I just placed those wonderful iridescent sequins that I love so much, and that card is finished. For card number 9, I believe, yes. I'm doing the same thing. I'm using a Lawn Fawn stitch die. And again, I'm drawing around that. I'm using some of the clouds that I had left over from the previous card. And I want to use the banner, one of the banner dies, or excuse me, yeah, stamps from the kit. So I put my clouds in position, and I want that banner to go between the clouds. So now you're like, okay, how are we going to do that? I grabbed my wax pencil, keeping my hand there, pulled out the clouds, and then just stamped down. The paper that I'm using here is the Nina Solar White 80 pound, and here I'm doing the same thing again. So having the clouds in place, using my wax pencil to pull them out, and then just pressing down. These alcohol markers that I have here are Pro markers. They're by Winsor and Newton. And I really like them. I'm thinking about actually growing this collection. They're at a nice price point, but I love the bullet tip. I know my Prismacolors, my Prismacolors, they have the brush tip and a bullet tip. So that's why I also went with them. But I really like the bullet tip on these. I'm not really a brush tip person when it comes to alcohol markers. But very simple coloring. You could actually, with one color, get 2 shades. So you can see that's what I'm doing. I'm kind of tapping down at the tip of them to give them a level of shading. But very simple. You could even use Sharpies for this. They're alcohol markers, believe it or not, and you can do the same thing with them as well. So I've used the die and I've cut that out with my Big Shot. And now we're going to give a temp with the sentiment. So I'm using the Simon Says Intense Black ink because it was out because I used it for my alcohol. And yeah, it's stamped awesomely. So we tried to fix that with my Micron 01 pen. And it looked okay, but you know, as I kept on staring at it, it just wasn't doing the job. And also this panel is 3 1/4 by 4 5/8, because I like to try to give those measurements. You can see I've already adhered the clouds. Yes, we have dimension. I almost put it on upside down. So I've placed that in the center with the clouds overhanging. You know, again, gives it a little bit of difference. And here's where we change the sentiment. So I grabbed a piece of scrap black cardstock from my Recollections. I'm going to use my Versamark and stamp that down. And I'm going to grab my white embossing powder from Recollections. It's called Snow. And we're going to heat set that. I actually did another sentiment too on a piece of white with black. I didn't like that either. So this sentiment was giving me a nice, wonderful time. That's a Lawn Fawn Everyday Banner die that I'm using. I'm going to keep the fishtail on the one side. And I'm going to adhere that straight across, let that go off the edge. And we're going to trim that with my scissors. And I think it's really cute, simple, to the point, never stop dreaming. Using the Mahumba bottle to put some glue down. And I grabbed the green set of sequins, and we're just putting those all around. That is card number 9. Card number 10, sit back and get ready, people. This one was unbelievable. It was so I grabbed one of the die cuts that said birthday wishes, propped it up on with using my foam tape onto black cardstock, and then just cut around it just to give it like a little bit of a border when it came to this. And I'm going to use this for the sentiment on the front of my card. I'm using this as the card panel, and I use the wonky stitch die to cut it out, of course. Never fear, it will always make a comeback. And we're going to adhere that on my 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'm using my white Nina Solar White 80 pound as my base. I know some people like to use the 110. I do like the 80 pound. I think it is a good weight. The 110 is good as well, by all means, but I'm okay with that. So I adhered the sentiment to the front, and we're going to set that aside. I grabbed a green cardstock from my stash, my scraps, and I used the Lawn Fawn Grassy Hillside die and just cut a panel out of that. And now I have this scrap that measures 2 1/2 by 5 inches. And I want to not score down this piece, but I want to draw a line. So I put it in my Martha Stewart scoreboard, and I know they're discontinuing these. And I'm going to use one of the pop-up dies. This is the first time, guys, I'm using a pop-up die. This is hysterical. So I placed the die along the pencil with those little notches off to the side and ran it through my Big Shot. I'm going to erase my pencil line, and then I'm going to put this back into my scoreboard because I want to score above the cut line and I want to score below the cut line where I had that pencil line. So you can put this anywhere you want. You just got to know where it's going to bend and how it's going to bend. So I actually made a template of all of these on a piece of cardstock because they're all different heights and everything else. Fold it in half, and then just make sure you score down. Use your boning folder just to score down. And where I'm pointing there, as you know, my finger's going all over the place there, where it's folded, that's what's going to go into the fold of the card. So I just trimmed some of the top off because I didn't want that. I'm not worried about the bottom, but I just didn't want so much on the top, and you'll kind of see why. So I'm putting my adhesive on one side, placing it down, and then while it's folded like that, I'll apply my adhesive again, Pretty soon we will no longer see that. And then I'm just folding the card down onto it. This way it's adhered in there and it's all set. I grabbed a piece of blue, light blue cardstock from my stash. I know this is from Recollections. It's one of my Recollections paper. And I'm drawing just a pencil line at the 5.5 inch mark on that, and you'll see why. I grabbed the same die, and now I'm kind of eyeballing it, just lining it up there. Ran it through, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to slice that off. Yep, I just cut right through it. I'm going to fold this piece back, and I want to cut that off. So now I have the notch of the pop-up that I need to have, because you can see I'm just going to place this down. It's okay that I have that little space there. I'm okay with that. But I just wanted to have that set because you can see I'm creating a sky. And now I'm setting the grass down on the bottom, and I wanted to use one of the clear acetate die cuts, and I thought the zebra was absolutely adorable. So he's actually trapped within the grass from the adhesive, and I put a glue dot, one of these micro glue dots, which I have become addicted to, at the hat so you can't see it. And now I'm just trimming around the edges, and now I have the base to my card. So I grabbed the surprise die cut. I'm putting a little bit of adhesive on the pop-up, and I'm just going to set that in place. Here's where we start to go awry. So I'm grabbing the I used the popsicle, and I used the stars. I didn't use the ice cream cones. It was getting very busy there, and I'm glad I didn't because of what this did. But I did want to use the stars. So I have them in position. The popsicle will move, and I wanted to use this Let's Party. So I do keep some of my plastic packaging. If it's big enough, I cut it down into squares. And I'm adding some adhesive micro dots to this, and I'm going to adhere it to the back of the surprise. Now you notice I only have one here. So my goal was to take this, the Let's Party acetate. I attached a party hat to it, and I set it down on some white cardstock just so that it could have a backing to it. And I'm going to fussy cut around this. And that's going to be my pop-up element. Here's a trick. See how I have it laid down towards the top? It's a good idea, but you need to also check this for when you fold it closed. See what's happening there? See how it's going off the edge. Still didn't realize that, because what I noticed there was it was very floppy. When you opened the card with just that one strip of acetate that's clear, it was really flopping around. But there we go. You can see that it's sticking up on the top. So what did I do? I ripped it all off. I cut the bottom of the surprise panel and just moved it down. So you can see how different it looks. Now that popsicle does eventually move to the center. So it's a fun process. I know that was a horrible section of the video. Maybe I'll do one. If everyone would like, let me know in the comments. Let me know if you want to see me do a good pop-up card. I'd like to give this a shot again. So I'm taking the Mahamba glue bottle, and I'm putting sequins where those glue dots are so that you can't see them. That's how we can hide those glue dots, because they are the micro ones. And I'm just using the blue set, the blue shades of sequins all over, just to give it a little bit of bling. Lots of bling going on. This was actually fun to make. But again, if you want to see me do another one, let me know, and we'll do it the right way. But yeah, you got to check all angles. And, you know, we always take a first shot. These are the materials that I have left. I didn't use the card bases that they gave, the die cuts, all the stickers, tons of stickers, the stamp set. That's the cardstock that I have left. They're the scraps from what I used, and then an entire awesome paper pad. So I know I'll be digging that into more. And these are the cards that were made in this video. I hope you enjoyed it. This one was kind of tough. especially editing this video because I did so many things. But if you like it, please hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button so that you can stay tuned, especially for the next video coming. Wait till you see what I created with all of those supplies that were left. Again, guys, thank you so much for staying with me. It's been a pleasure. I am so having much fun with this journey and having you all with me. Remember, everyone, be creative.